What is going on, guys? It's Scott Club back here again. It'll bring you another video. Today is going to be doing my Magician deck profile, but with a slight twist. This is a bit of an early deck profile. This is going to be doing the post Extreme Forces Magician build. Because for those of you who have probably tried looking at it online, if you go on YouTube, you only really find YGO Pro playbacks. And if you actually look online, it's kind of difficult to find any deck lists that would be remotely relevant to our meta. So yeah, this is just a brief overview of what my deck is going to be looking like once Electromite is out. Feel free to let me know what your other builds are going to be like. I will be going through some of the tech choices in here as well as some of the new cards that are going in. And I am aiming to introduce a really cool combo that I did find while I was testing at the end of the video. So yeah, bearing in mind this is a deck for post Extreme Forces, not for now, as once Electromite is out, the deck does drastically change. So yeah, let's start out. So for starters, we still have the Triple Wisdom Eye. That's obviously always going to be at 3 until it goes to 1 or 2. So yeah, pretty standard. 3 Purple Poison, because it is pretty much the best card of the deck, and going second with Electromite can basically blow up your opponent's board. 3 Double Iris, because standard. Your Pendulum Graphs are basically your win condition. 3 Harmonizing, because it is the best card of the deck. And so those are basically your main 4 3-ofs for the Magician deck, for the Magician part of the deck. Going off to the one-offs, the 1 Black Fang. I was running 2 of this in my previous build, as you saw. However, because of the lack of space the new build does include, this kind of has to go down to 1, and considering how little you actually use Harmonizing, it's not actually that necessary. However, this still does stay as a 3-up because of how the fact that it is a 1-card anything. It's a 1-card Electromite, it is a 1-card Omega, it is a 1-card Xyz monster, it is a 1-card anything basically. Then for the rest of the one-offs, 1 Earth Dragon, because we don't ever want to run 2 as we don't like opening it, and the 1 White Wing. For those of you who did look at some OCG deck lists, I did do a bit of research, and none of them are actually playing this. In a future video, I might be testing without these, but considering our meta at the minute, where we have Omega at 3, so we do like to abuse that by taking 2 cards out for our opponent's hands turn 1, making them play with a 4-card hand. So this still has to stay in, and this is good. So we're not wasting our Purple Poisons or Double Irises on our first Harmonizing. And obviously, for the same reasoning with White Wing, you're also still playing these because we don't have cards like Red Reboot. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's not really what it does isn't really relevant as of now, as we're not getting it for a while. But still, so yeah, until we get the cards like that, we probably won't. This is going to stay like as it is. Going off to the rest, we run obviously Triple Skullcrobat Joker, because it's basically your hand on Bricker. Then the 1 Luster Pendulum, because as I said, it is my tech card for this deck, and it always will be. I don't think I'm ever going to drop it unless space becomes that tight that there isn't space for tech choices. As you probably might have noticed if you saw the previous deck list, Master isn't here anymore, because the point of Master was to do basically this, only you were taking a bit of a neg by not getting any of an extra effect. However, whereas this one obviously destroyed your scale, added you an extra scale, and more than likely triggered you an additional effect. Whereas, worst case scenario, this one was simply clearing your monster, just so you could put something else there. Whereas Master was sort of just popping a card to trigger an effect. Whereas now you only really need this to trigger off an effect. And then you've got Electromite to do what Master would have done. And then you're supposed to be running 2 of Performer Power Pendulum Sorcerer. There is meant to be 2, but for some reason I can only find 1. I don't know where it's gone, it's kind of frustrating. But for those of you who are listening with the sound on, there's meant to be 2 of this. The reason being because You can search it off of this quite easily. It's searchable with Duelist Alliance. So the worst case is a searchable low scale or a searchable combo beat stick, because pendulum summoning this with this puts this up to 2800. And the fact that this can trigger your double irises and all your other effects is extremely useful. Next, going off to some of the newer ratios, we are running free Abyss Actor Curtain Raiser. For those of you who don't know what this does, because this is a relatively new card to the meta, it came out about the summer of last year, I believe. Don't quote me on that though. This is an Abyss Actor card. Basically, is a Dark Fiend Scale 7 Pendulum monster. Its scale effect reads: if you control no monsters while this is in the scale, you can special summon this card. However, you can only activate the effect once per duel. Its monster effect is pretty much irrelevant, just that it gains 1100 attack points if you control no other monsters, and that you can do some stuff with Abyss scales, but they're not really that relevant. The main reason you run this is because you want to basically spam out Electromite as fast as you physically can. So, say for example, opening this and any other pendulum monster that you can normal summon is basically an Electromite, because you can special summon this and then immediately normal summon, and then that's how you've got your combos going off. So yeah, you run free at this. Yes, the once per duel effect is slightly awkward. However, you do need 3 of it to get your effects running, to get the most out of Electromite. And even after that, the fact that it's a 7 scale that is a level 4, it does still give you a lot of potential, because you can make rank 4 plays with it, Synchro plays with it, Link plays with it. It's still a very decent card. Then off to the graphs, we run triple Astrograph Magician. In the previous build, I was only running 2. However, because of the way the new deck is meant to work, you do have to run 3 of this, because basically the new build kind of goes beat down on it. Because if you open this in your combo, because there is a 2-card combo with this card and Skullcrabat, in which you do all your regular combos, and then when you summon Electromite, you summon this, and then use Electromite's effect to pop a double iris to then add this back, summoning this and getting a double iris search, getting you 3 monsters to then go off even further. There is a really cool combo build in which you use 3 of this to then make an Odd Eyes Vortex, and then you use this to make a Naruto, of which I have kind of incorporated into this. But yeah, 3 of this so you can get the most out of your popping effects. And honestly, I stand by 3 for this, because I did a couple of turn 1 testing hands, because obviously this deck is a going first deck because of Pendulum Graph, and you can potentially end with 6-7 cards, as well as an additional 3 extra searches during your opponent's turn if you do play through it correctly. Next, free Chronograph Magician. This one I didn't play any of this in the previous build, because obviously the destruction wasn't as important in the previous build. Harmonizing was basically the most important card of the deck, in my opinion, because we were synchro summoning and rank summoning as much as we could, and we were wanted to focus on the Omega players, because we didn't have any decent Link monster, because Deco Talker required 3 monsters, and yeah, we didn't really have anything else other than a Akashic Magician, and that only pointed downwards for 1, so it didn't do all that much. But however, obviously now with us having Electromite after this weekend that is upcoming, we are going to have a Link 2 monster that can point downwards into these 2 zones here. And then obviously, well, these 2 zones here and these 2 zones here to be specific. For those of you who weren't fully aware of what Electromite did. The point of this one is basically Astrograph. However, when he is summoned, unlike Astrograph, who searches a card that was destroyed that turn, he special summons 1 from hand. So you can basically get a lot of good Link combos going if you decided to switch. If you decided to mess around with my variant a bit, or mess around with your own variant to make it more of a Link Link based, you could do that, and in theory it does work, because the fact that you can summon this and then summon something else and immediately link for like a proxy dragon is really, really overpowered. And just a really random combo to show you. There's like an ABC combo with this. Say, for example, you have this in hand, and you can trigger it, but you don't have any targets to special summon. You can go Electromite, destroy one of your targets, add this back, go Chainlink 1, then Chainlink 2. Because these don't special summon on the chain activation, they basically stay in hand, whereas they would be strike. You can activate this as Chainlink 2, summon this, add a monster that was destroyed, and then immediately after that resolves, summon this, summoning the monster you added off this, giving you an additional monster if you had no cards in hand that you could summon. So that's why you run free of this. The other reason you run free of Chronograph is because of this. This, I guarantee you, will be seeing a lot of play in the upcoming months, because originally this wasn't seeing any play because it was very awkward to make. There aren't many, I don't think there's a single relevant level 6 spellcaster except the new Dark Magician Apprentice card, but you know, Dark Magician isn't topping anywhere to my knowledge. I might be wrong, but I've not heard of it. But with this, you can make this quite easily, but with these, because going back to the whole special summoning, you can actually work around this with this, because they're both level 6 spellcasters. So you can search to summon this. And for those of you who don't know what Naruto actually does, his effect is quite standard. It's just basically, once per turn during the player's turn when your opponent activates a spell or a trap, detach one to negate and destroy the effect, the card itself. So basically, unless Spiral dies out, spell decks are still going to be quite important. And this is still good in the mirror match, because the ability to stop your opponent's scales, stop your opponent getting a Wisdom Eye, or stop a Spiral player getting a Spiral Resort or a Last Resort, is still really, really useful. And the fact that you can make it so easily is also really, really, really good. And even then, worst case, even after you've used up the material, it's a 27k beat stick, which is very powerful considering the chronographs themselves only have 2000. So it is literally, unless you can kaiju this thing, you're going to have a very hard time playing through it, because spell negation plus a time pendulum graph means this deck is going to be very hard to play through. And while in your mind you're probably thinking this is very awkward to make, I did think the exact same thing until I started testing this myself. And while I'm not going to do it because the theory probably wouldn't work out, I am toying with bumping Oath Dragon up to 2 because of how easily you can make this card. But I'm not likely to go through with it. But yeah, then go after the monsters. 3 Gamma, 1 Driver. We're not running Ashes or anything like that. This is just to basically protect your monster effects from going through and stop Ashes. That's pretty self-explanatory. Next, we go on to the spells. We go run Pendulum Call. Originally, I was running 3 of this, and it was running 3 of that was the whole reason I ran these to begin with, because with Pendulum Call, with this deck, if you can resolve Pendulum Call, you more than likely will be winning, because you can basically even out your scales, get a Harmonizer, get anything you actually need for the cost of going 1 for 1. And if your opponent goes on the other hand, if your opponent ashes this and you have no out, you're basically going down to 3 cards. Going first, you lose, because Pendulum players cannot play with 3 cards. It's virtually impossible unless those specific cards are a Purple Poison, a Star Pendulum Graph, and a Time Pendulum Graph, in which they can still Twin Twister you. But unless you have that specific hand, it's a very specific hand that you can't do all that much. So by running this, when you activate this and they ash it, you can summon this and this. They're down a card. You're up to the cards you want. You then make an Omega with this. They're down to another card. You then summon Harmonizing and then do another Omega play, making them having to play with 3 cards next turn. So it's a really good play. However, this has been bumped down to 1 because with Electromite, obviously the main part of its effect is the fact that it can draw a card if a card in your Pendulum Zone leaves. However, with the Pendulum Call, that basically stops it from happening. So this kind of gets in the way of Electromite. It's not something I'm going to bump outright. I'm outright going to bump to 0. It's still needed, at least at 1. However, I can't see it. When I was testing it at 2 and 3, it just got in the way because I kept opening in a time where I could use my Abyss Scale, my Abyss Actors to summon Electrolyte, and then I couldn't fully resolve Electrolyte because you're having to use this first. So, by all means, try and bump it up to 2 or 3 if you feel the need to. If you have that much space, then there is no reason why you couldn't, but in my testing it didn't work out that well. Next, we run triple Duelist Alliance because it's quite standard. Searches out this, searches out Lost the Pendulum, thins out your deck, that sort of stuff. There's also a reason you run this because of your 2-time Pendulum Graph. This is staying the same. In some of the OCG lists, this is going to 1. I've seen some people running it at 1. But I'm still going to continue to run it at 2. Never at 3 because you don't need it in your opening hand. Because the fact that you have so much access to Double Iris now, and the fact that you have so much access to the popping effect of it, means there is no need to put this at 3. But if you put it at 1 and then it gets Cosmicked, the consistency of this deck will bump down by a lot. Next, for the last of the spells, we run double Wavering Eyes. The reason being that in the mirror match, because anybody who knows anything about the meta knows that when a new deck becomes tier 0, all of the pro players basically jump on it. Hence why Spiral was topping everywhere, because all of the top tier players jumped on it knowing it was the best deck. Once Spiral is gone, this is going to be the best deck. Therefore, you're going to be constantly coming up against extra Pendulum players. So by running this, you can basically be prepared for it. You could side deck it. I was side decking it I was side decking this post Extreme Forces. However, I kind of ended up. I wasn't even enjoying main decking it because everyone at my locals stopped playing Pendulums. But yeah, now this is necessary because even if you don't have a time Pendulum Graph, as long as you have an Electromite on field and then you can activate this, you can basically trigger multiple effects because you can, say for example you've got a double iris, a black fang and a purple poison, an Electromite, you can go activate this, pop them both, add like an Astrograph, a Chronograph, anything like that, and then immediately you can trigger your purple poison to pop a card, trigger black fang to summon something from grave, trigger Electromite to draw a card, and then trigger the card you added from this, as well as go for burn damage. And the reason why you run this at 2, being in the event that you do come up against Tricksters or something like that, then these are they're not dead cards, but they are significantly better to be used against a Pendulum player, because going first and then having this card to then immediately wipe out your opponent's scales is a lot better than getting away with it. It's essentially, there was a time where I didn't like playing the card, but at this point, with the upcoming format, it's either Wavering Eyes or be Wavering Eyes. That's my logic around it. You either use this on a Pendulum player first, or they use it on you. That's pretty standard. You don't really want 3, because if you don't go up against a Magician player or any Pendulum deck, it's a little less useful. And by running 2, it's a lot easier for you to side out, because for me, Wavering Eyes is pretty much the card I side out instantly going game 2 if I'm not against a Magician player, because I can side in anything else I need, whereas this isn't exactly a consistency card. That's why it's easier to side out. And then for the last of the main deck, we have 2 Pendulum Call. Not Pendulum Call, 2-time Pendulum Graph. This is quite standard, not changing this still. That's pretty standard. Going on to the extra deck, we run the 1 Naruto, as previously explained. Then we run the 1 Baguska, because stalling turn 1 can be useful. And one of the most consistent plays of this deck now is to go double Omega and then sit on a Baguska, because then your opponent can't use any of their cards and any of their monster effects to get extra pluses. The 1 Trapeze Magician. I have been standing by this card since Pendulums initially came out, or when I picked up the deck, because basically this stops you taking any form of burn damage. So if you make this against a Trickster player, they have to literally put all of their resources into focusing on making a Break Sword to kill this thing. or the concept of the deck isn't there anymore. And there were times when I played a couple of Trickster players and I needed a really, really big beat stick, and I didn't have anything. I'd only have like an Abyss Dweller and a Time Star, but obviously Time Star requires 2 Magicians, and I'd have like a Skulker and a Sorcerer. So I would want this and then think, oh, I took it out. So I kept putting this back. The one Abyss Dweller for the Light Swarm players, the Burning Abyss players, the Rocket players, if the new Rocket support does bump them up a bit. Because I mean, we've seen testing where it's not that great, but we could get some random combo that pops up that makes them really, really powerful. I mean, it's happened before where a deck's gone from being terrible to being tier 0, cough cough Spiral. Next, for the last of these, we were on the Runtime Star Magician. For those of you that are on a budget and can't afford cards like Electromite, but you want to kind of run it like this, you could bump this up to 2 or run multiple other cards. It's your choice. The extra deck isn't really what's actually in your extra deck doesn't ever really matter with the only thing that has to be in there is 1 Baguska, even then it doesn't have to be there. 1 Time Star at least, because it gets your searches going. At least one Omega is what I've always thought. You can run 2, depending how your build is. The 1 Ignister, and the 1 Supreme King Venom. Supreme King Clearwing. Those are your 5 main cards. Anything else doesn't matter as long as they just have to fit your playstyle. So yeah, 1 Time Star, 1 Baguska, 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 Trapeze, and 1 Narita. Going on to the Synchro players now, with the Synchro monsters, we run the 1 Ignister because this is really, really good. In the mirror match, you can, since this doesn't specify it has to be yours, you can actually pop your opponent's cards. This is why obviously it got limited back in Pepe format, because you just pop your opponent's cards and then shuffle them back in. So this is really good in the mirror match, and the fact that I'm running Luster means I actually have access to a free pop instead of having to sacrifice one of my own cards if I'm not in the mirror match. For the next of the Synchros, we run double Omega. Well, I have specified at the start of the video, or if I didn't, then I apologise. But this one isn't exactly a budget-friendly deck. This is a meta deck that's aimed to be the most ideal version from the research I've done for the deck. So double Omega is what I've seen a lot of people playing, and honestly is the best version. Running 1 is okay if you're on a really low budget, but 2 for if you're on a slightly higher budget, and 3 is kind of just overkill. You can do, the reason being because you do take users twice. If you do, I had a Spiral player who's a friend of mine, literally confirmed to me that going double Omega and then Baguska isn't exactly game, but it's the one play they hate to see more than anything. Next, the 1 Enlightenment Paladin. This could easily be dropped if you didn't want to play it. It's just a really good tech card for the fact that it can do burn damage if you're about to go into time and it's like you're going 1 win, 1 loss against your opponent, and you're about to hit time and you don't want the draw. Going this can basically do the extra burn damage and then basically just stall for the rest of the game. Next, the 1 Beals for True Draco players, the 1 Supreme King for extra stuff, and for the last Synchro, it's Stardust Dragon. I am standing by this, and this is why. I'll just show you quickly. If you're up against a Trickster player, unless they're main decking Kaijus, they have no way to out this. You immediately go, make Stardust Dragon turn 1. You wait for them to basically use something that would make you have to sacrifice, like a Regeki, a Dark Hole, an Interrupted Kaiju Slumber, anything like that. You just tribute summon this. You just tribute this to negate it, and then it comes back here. And then immediately afterwards, you make this. Now, they don't actually have any way to kill this, because the only way they would have to kill this would be their Breaksword, and considering Breaksword only has 2,000 attack points, they can't beat over this, and they can't destroy it because we have Stardust Dragon. So they basically can't kill this, So now they can't burn us, and they have nothing strong enough other than a Borreload to beat over these. But that would mean they would have to spam out 4 monsters somehow, without doing any of the burn damage, and without being interrupted by a purple poison, a time pendulum graph, or anything like that, and successfully go through. And just to further solidify the fact that there are going to be times where if you even have Narita and you just stop the light stage going through. That's why I run these two. Literally one of my favourite combos. I haven't pulled it off yet, but that's solely because there's like 1 or 2 trickster players at my locals tops. Then the one is Starving Venom, because this is technically running free Omega, because you can go make the first Omega after making Electromite, banish it, then make the second Electromite, make this, targeting this. Like, this doesn't have to be in turn 1, it's very difficult to make an Electromite and these 3 all in turn 1 unless you've opened very, very well. It is actually possible though, because of obviously the chronographs going through and all that before you even pendulum summon. But you go target this, then banish this, and then banish this. You've knocked 3 cards out of their hand. However, one of them is permanently, because this basically only becomes a Mega while it's on the field. Once it's left the field, it's no longer a Mega, therefore it returns to the Starving Venom effect. Therefore it cannot come back. So your opponent has permanently lost a card. You have gone 1 for 1, but you've basically just sacrificed a couple of Pendulum monsters to basically take a card out of their hand permanently. And then to round it off, the 2 Electromite. That's basically it. So just before I end this video, I just want to show you the combo I was referring to. It's a really, really cool 2-card combo that basically involves this and Skullcrabat. So you start off by scaling your Abyss Actor, and then you basically just use the effect to special summon it. You then normal summon Skullcrabat, grabbing yourself a double Iris. For this combo, it does specifically have to be a double Iris. You then link with these 2 into your extra deck, and then go into your Electromite. You then use Electromite's effect to go and send an Astrograph to your extra deck, or Chronograph Grip based on what's in your hand, but more often than not it will be Astrograph. You then use Astrograph's effect, use Electromite's effect to destroy double Iris to add back the Astrograph. You can then activate 3 Chain Links in 1, because you've got your Chain Link 1 of Electromite to draw 1, your Chain Link 2 effect of Astrograph to search 1, and then double Iris's effect to add a Pendulum Graph. That's 3 effects off of 1 destruction, and there's the fact that you can go through even more of that, and all it's cost you is 2 cards, and you've added 3 back. So it goes, and adding in an additional card, like there was another word. I'll probably do a combo video on this, depending what people want to see. But yeah, so this has been the Pendulum Magician deck list post Extreme Forces. This is a bit rusty. This is sort of just what I've been thinking. It's what I've been testing. It's been really, really good. I haven't actually lost with this deck in playtesting against other people yet. So, but obviously we won't be able to see how good this actually is until we take this to a YCS or a regional or a WCQ or basically a regional or anything like that. So this has been the Scrub Club signing out, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, leave a thumbs up in the comments. Yeah, leave a positive comment, leave a thumbs up so I know to do this stuff again. Let me know what you think of the video. If there's anything you want to change, any tech choices you want to share, feel free to let me know, and I'll see if I can feature it in my next video. So, peace out.